Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl Utah loses 1-0 to the Boston Bruins. This is why you do not scoreboard watch, because that might have been the biggest lopsided 1-0 loss I've ever had to watch. Before we get into the game, a lot of housekeeping. Connor Ingram staying in Utah, not on the road trip for this 4-game East Coast road trip. He's dealing with an upper body injury. They recalled Jackson Stauber, who's 5-2 and has some good goalie numbers in Tucson with the Roadrunners, and he has some NHL experience, about 6, 7, 8 games with the Chicago Blackhawks. They've also thrown the lineup into a food processor again, and I'm not lying here. When I saw the lines yesterday at practice, Bell Fraser on Twitter tweeted out the lines. I'm like, why don't they just go back to what they had in the first 5 games of the season? They scored 5 goals against Chicago, 6 goals against the Rangers, 5 against the Islanders, 4 against Anaheim, shutout against New Jersey, and then a couple bad games against the Avalanche and the Ottawa Senators, and that's when they decided to change up the lines. I said this yesterday. I'm not lying here, because if you watch the game, you know what happens in the third period. But they changed the lineups for this game. They changed the power play lineups too. They separate Schmaltz. Hayden wasn't even on the power play to start this game. They had Keller, Gunther, Michelli, Kerfoot, and Sergachev as PP1, PP2, Schmaltz, Cooley, Kraus, Bukestad, and Kesselring. They separate Keller and Schmaltz. I was dumbfounded when I saw these power play units. But okay, let's get into the game. Finally, it was a quiet first 4 or 5 minutes. You know, both teams really not engaging as much with each other. Utah looked okay. They were skating, moving their feet. They were pushing the puck north, which I like to see. They were trying to make plays, but it wasn't really connecting. It was very low event and quiet first 5 minutes. Boston, I was anticipating to be desperate, high energy. They just fired a coach. That is such a dangerous team to play after a team fires a coach. There's always this thing called the coach bump, where you fire a coach, you go on a run, but it's unsustainable and you fall back down to earth. That's probably what's going to happen right now with the Bruins. So there's a fight. Bertuzzo and Kastelik decide, hey, this game's pretty boring. Let's give the fans a show. Let's try to get both teams more engaged. So they fight. And then after that fight, there was 2 Boston odd man rushes caused by Utah turnovers. Luckily, Boston missed the net on both of those chances. Utah goes on the penalty kill around the middle of the first period. They kill it off, and then I wrote down, okay, now's the time. Establish some offensive zone pressure, and that didn't happen for the next 40 minutes. There's a big save, Vejmelka on Pasternak with a huge blocker save. Utah has a power play. They don't score. They go back to the penalty kill. They kill it off. Vejmelka was standing on his head, bailing the Utah Hockey Club team out. There's finally a third line shift. The third line was Schmaltz, Hayden, and Kerfoot. Did I say what the lines were? It was Keller, Gunther. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Keller, Gunther, and Bukestad, Michelli, Cooley, Kraus, Schmaltz, Hayden, Kerfoot, Carconi, Stenlund, McBain. So that third line of Schmaltz, Hayden, and Kerfoot had a rare offensive shift late in the first before Utah goes back on the penalty kill. That's 3 penalty kills in the first period, which is not good, and that continued for the rest of the game. Vejmelka bailing out the team, staying on his head. Vejmelka had an unbelievable game. Such a waste of a performance by Vejmelka, and we're going to need those performances with Ingram out. Maybe Vejmelka gets all 4 games on the road trip. Maybe Stauber gets a game. Maybe against Pittsburgh Saturday. I don't think so. Most likely against Montreal on Tuesday night. But maybe on that back-to-back with Pittsburgh and Toronto. You never know. Stauber might get a start in one of those. So after the first period, Utah's outshot 15-5, really poor first period, but it's 0-0, so you're in the game regardless of how bad you were. Going to the second period, immediately they go on the penalty kill again, but Cole saves a goal line goal. The Vejmelka, the puck was behind him. The puck's laying in the crease right around the red line, but good on Ian Cole to deny that scoring chance. Utah goes on the power play early second period. It looked better than the first one in that first period, but too much perimeter. They couldn't really be dangerous or do anything threatening. They had Michelli in Gunther's spot on this specific power play for whatever reason. Gunther was in the middle of the ice, and Michelli and Keller were just passing it around with Sergachev between them and not really getting any good looks. Utah just looked out of sorts this game. It's halfway through the game. They couldn't really connect any passes, barely any sustained ozone time. They were overskating pucks. They're outshot halfway through the game 22-9. So Boston definitely overpowering Utah, but probably and most likely because, and the reason was why, Boston had so many power plays that they were just guaranteed to have way more shots than Utah. Late in the second period, Utah goes back on the penalty kill, and finally Boston scores the lone goal of the game, just throwing the puck on net, and it finds its way onto a stick with an open net, and Boston doesn't miss there, right in the crease. There's another fight, a rematch between Bertuzzo and Kastelik late in the second, and Utah gets on the power play because of the instigator by the Boston player. Again, they fail at scoring on the power play. I already said the score is 1-0. That's the 5th time Utah's shut out in this season. That's about 25% of their games they haven't scored, and that's no power play goals. They're 0 for 4. That's 13 out of 19 games without a power play goal. Pretty brutal. We go into the third period. Is it going to change there? Sort of. On the first shift, Krause hits the post. A nice look. Great pass from Michelli. And I said Krause and Michelli, they're back together. And in this third period, Turney decides, let's go back to how it was at the beginning of the season. So Keller, Schmaltz, Hayden reunited. Gunther, Cooley, McBain reunited. Krause, Michelli, Bukestad, and then Kerfoot, McBain, Stenlund. The lineups they had in those first 5 games of the season. Obviously, Bukestad is there in place of Josh Stone. They go on back on the penalty kill in the third period. They didn't learn their lesson. Kesselring with just an unnecessary cross-check on Morgan Geekie in front of Amelka. The puck was nowhere near the front of the net. This Geekie guy wasn't a threat. There was no reason to just blatantly cross-check the guy right in front of the ref. So luckily, they kill it off, but Boston did hit the post on that. And then Lamoureux hits the post. Late in the third period, I would say the last 9 minutes, Utah finally decided we could play in the offensive zone and be okay at it. There was a nice pass from Cooley to Lamoureux, who roofed it, but he hits the crossbar post. They had a power play, 7 minutes left in the game. They didn't convert on it. They pull Vejmelka, 2 minutes left. They try to get something going. Schmaltz was in front of the net. He got off kind of a weak backhander, but that was it. The Utah generated 2 5-on-5 high danger chance opportunities. 2 in 60 minutes. Obviously, there were so many penalties that there were never 5-on-5, so it wasn't really 60 minutes, but still only generating 2 high danger chances at even strength. Pretty poor. Overall, they're outshot 31-21. Shots on goal really low. 0 for 4 on power play. 6 for 7 on the penalty kill. 7 penalties taken, geez. And 45% on the power play. They got a sort of weak team on Saturday against Pittsburgh, but again, it's a back-to-back. They're 2 games below 500 now. They're on a tough road trip, so they just got to get it going. For me, get the lineups back to where they were the beginning of the season. They had a lot of success. They were scoring a lot. Sure, they had that shutout against Jersey, but that was 1 out of 5 games. I guess that's on pace. 5 out of 19 games is the same amount of pace, but just get back to some familiarity. I feel like if you're blending the lines every few games, every handful of games, you're just getting everyone out of a funk. They have to relearn play styles of other players. Just keep some familiarity. That way you don't need to think so much about your line mates. It could be sort of automatic, like for Keller and Schmaltz, they know exactly where people are. They know where Hayden is, Michelli, Krause. They have good chemistry. They know where each other is instinctively. They played with each other for like 3 seasons. Just stick with that. Don't try to jumble these lines every 3 games. Just you're trying to find something that's not there. Just stick with it. I think they have it in them. If you go back to those early days of the lineup. So I'm hoping Saturday we see, that Keller, Schmaltz, Hayden line, Machelli, Kraus, Bukestad, Cooley, Gunther, McBain, and that should generate some offense. Vejmelka, keep being Vejmelka. Thought the defense was good because, you only lose 1-0. The high danger chances for Boston, 5-on-5, I think was 7, which is average. But again, just the discipline was not there tonight either. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.